Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Coming up in the next hour. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar calls for stronger global South solidarity and collective push for UN reforms at the high-level meet of developing nations in New York.
It is natural that the global South would turn to multilateralism for solutions. The very concept of multilateralism is under attack. International organizations are being rendered ineffective or starved of resources.
India tears into Pakistan at the UNHRC, calls it a nation which bombs its own people, asks Islamabad to vacate illegally occupied Indian territory and focus on its ailing economy. In a U-turn, President Trump signals Ukraine can retake all its land under Russian occupancy. Ukraine's President Zelensky and French President Emmanuel Macron welcome US President's remarks. And Super Typhoon Ragasa leaves a trail of destruction in Taiwan with 14 dead and hundreds missing. China orders shutting down of schools and businesses across 10 cities, likely to be hit by the year's strongest storm. On the sidelines of the UNGA meeting in the US, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar held a key meeting in New York. Jaishankar hosted a high-level meeting of like-minded Global South countries to discuss a number of important global issues. He made the proposal for Global South to approach the world affairs with solidarity and said that in the light of current challenges, the need for enhanced dialogue among the Global South was needed to foster solidarity and encourage mutual cooperation. The discussion recommended utilizing existing platforms to strengthen mutual consultation. Presenting India's position, Jaishankar said, given the growing concerns and multiplicity of risks of today, it is natural for the Global South to turn to multilateralism for solutions.
India would propose the following points for your collective consideration. 1. We utilize existing forums to strengthen consultations among Global South with a view to enhance solidarity and encourage collaboration. 2. Bring to the table specific strengths, experiences, and achievements that we may have individually developed, but which can actually benefit fellow Global South members.
On the sidelines of the UN General Assembly in New York, External Affairs Minister Jaishankar held a great conversation with the Foreign Minister Alva Baptiste of St. Lucia. External Affairs Minister of India also met Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Somalia, Abdisalam Ali, on the sidelines of the UNGA meeting in New York. Jaishankar also met Foreign Minister of Mauritius, Dhananjay Ritesh Ramphul, and discussed the recent successful state visit of Prime Minister Naveen Chandra Ramgoolam to India. In a post on X, Jaishankar said that he was delighted to know Foreign Minister Melvin Bouva of Suriname and appreciated his warm words for ties. Jaishankar also appreciated the conversation with Foreign Minister of Denmark, Lars Rasmussen, and valued his insights on latest developments in Europe and the Ukraine conflict. Both leaders also discussed bilateral ties and India-EU cooperation under the Danish presidency. Jaishankar appreciated the conversation with Lars Rasmussen and also discussed the issues of global interest. India on Tuesday hid out at Pakistan at the United Nations Human Rights Council, lashing out at Islamabad for abusing the forum with baseless and provocative statements against India. Representing India at the 60th session of the Human Rights Council, Kshitij Tyagi, Counselor, Permanent Mission of India in Geneva, said, instead of coveting our territory, Pakistan would do well to vacate the Indian territory under their illegal occupation and focus on rescuing an economy on life support, a polity muzzled by military dominance, and a human rights record strained by persecution, perhaps once they find time away from exporting terrorism, harboring UN-proscribed terrorists and bombing their own people.
A delegation that epitomizes the antithesis of this approach continues to abuse this forum with baseless and provocative statements against India. Instead of coveting our territory, they would do well to vacate the Indian territory under the illegal occupation and focus on rescuing an economy on life support, a polity muzzled by military dominance, and a human rights record stained by persecution. Perhaps once they find time away from exporting terrorism, harboring UN-proscribed terrorists, and bombing their own people.
Now, on to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. In a major shift from his previous dismissals of Kiev's aims in over a 3.5-year-old conflict, US President Donald Trump on Tuesday said that Ukraine could retake all of its territory lost to Russia. In a post on his Truth Social platform, Trump said that he believes Ukraine, with the support of the European Union and NATO, can win back all of the territory Russia has taken. Trump further said that the US will continue to supply weapons to NATO for NATO to do what they want with them. Dismissing Russia as a paper tiger in economic peril, Trump said Putin and Russia are in big economic trouble and this is the time for Ukraine to act.
The biggest progress is that the Russian economy is terrible right now. It's, as you know, it's crashing. And that, frankly, Ukraine is doing a very good job of stopping this very large army. It's pretty amazing. You know, this is a war that should have ended in 3 days, 4 days. People said it was going to be very quick, and you got to hand it to the Ukrainian soldiers.
Trump's comments come after holding talks with Ukrainian counterpart of his, Volodymyr Zelensky, on the sidelines of the UNGA in New York. Talking to media with Zelensky, the US president called NATO nations to shoot down Russian planes violating their territory.
Mr. President, do you think that NATO countries should shoot down Russian aircraft if they enter their airspace?
Yes, I do.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky hailed this big shift in Donald Trump's position after the US president said that Kiev could win back every inch of territory captured by the Russian army. Talking to media after meeting Trump, the Ukrainian president said that the US president had the power and influence to be a game changer for Ukraine.
Trump is a game changer by himself if he will be sure in Ukraine, and I think that he is more close now to this situation, and that's why, and between us, only Trump can. For today, we know some not too much players in the world who can be game changers, but he's the most closer to this.
Meanwhile, world leaders gathered at the UN Security Council for a high-level meeting on the Ukraine conflict. While Ukrainian President Zelensky urged stronger action from allies on Russia, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres warned of further escalation of the conflict.
We cannot afford to lose the current diplomatic momentum, as fragile as it might be. The longer this war continues, the more devastating its consequences for everyone. I therefore reiterate my appeal for a full, comprehensive and sustainable ceasefire.
French President Emmanuel Macron, too, welcomed comments by US President Donald Trump, appearing to shift his rhetoric about the war in Ukraine. Addressing the 80th session of the UNGA in New York, Macron said the world needed a functioning United Nations.
Il revient désormais à la Russie de prouver qu'elle peut choisir la... One could heap many criticisms on our assembly, including some that are not entirely fair. This assembly is us. It is ineffective. It is because some are blocking it, and often the most powerful. If it does not move fast enough, it is because we are not determined enough to push it forward. The United Nations is all of us. One thing is certain. We do not have the right to cynicism. We do not have the right to fatigue. We do not have the right to a defeatist mindset.
Du territoire ukrainien, malgré tant et tant de pertes, tant et tant de victimes.
Further, NATO has given a warning to Russia that it would use all necessary military and non-military tools to defend itself, as it condemned Moscow for violating Estonian airspace. The warning came after Estonia said on Friday that 3 Russian MiG-31 fighter jets violated its airspace for 12 minutes before NATO Italian fighter jets escorted them out. The week before, some 20 Russian drones entered Polish airspace, prompting NATO jets to shoot some of them down and the alliance to beef up the defense of Europe's eastern flank. The NATO statement followed a meeting of the North Atlantic Council, which was called after Estonia invoked Article 4 of NATO's founding treaty. You're watching DD India News Hour, still to come on the show. Donald Trump meets a host of Muslim leaders on the sidelines of the UNGA, discusses ending the Gaza conflict. Iran and European powers remain at loggerheads to reach a deal to avert the reimposition of UN sanctions. And South Africa is in talks with the United States to reduce tariffs imposed by Donald Trump.
Pakistan's Al-Khalid tank under fire at home. Can it hold up against India's T-90 Bhishma? Islamabad's stealth fighter dreams dashed. No J-35 in sight. India's big leap in aviation, IMRH and DBMRH, set to rule the skies and the seas. And Israel powers up its Iron Beam lasers to replace missiles in future wars. Catch all the action on Defense Dynamics this Wednesday at 8 p.m. IST only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Tanvi Taneja. US President Donald Trump held meetings with leaders of Muslim nations, including Qatar's Emir Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly in New York on Tuesday. According to reports, the meeting was focused on ending the ongoing conflict in Gaza and reaching a permanent ceasefire. US media reports that the release of hostages, ending hostilities, and plans for Israel's eventual withdrawal from Gaza were the key issues discussed during the meeting. Earlier, talking to media before the start of Trump said that the meeting was aimed at bringing the hostages back and a permanent ceasefire in Gaza.
We're here to see if we can get the hostages back and get the war over and get back to life in the Middle East, which is a beautiful life, but it's much more beautiful without wars, right?
The only reason we're here is to stop the war and bring the hostages back. And we count on you and your leadership as well to end this war and to help the people of Gaza. The situation is very, very, very bad there. So we are here to meet and to do everything we can to stop this war and to bring the hostages back.
French President Emmanuel Macron said on Tuesday, if US President Donald Trump wants the Nobel Peace Prize, he needs to stop the conflict in Gaza. And he also added that Trump is better positioned to do so than France. Speaking in a televised interview from New York, Macron said that only Trump has the power to put pressure on Israel to end the conflict in Gaza.
Je vois un président américain qui est mobile.
The Nobel Peace Prize is only possible if you stop this conflict. And therefore, we must put pressure on the Israeli government to end the conflict in Gaza, so that we can finally release the 48 hostages and reopen the humanitarian aid routes. save the lives of children, women, men, and the elderly.
48 otages.
Addressing the UN General Assembly earlier in the day, Trump had criticized the United Nations itself, saying that it had not supported his efforts to end conflicts around the world. But speaking to the chamber himself later in the day, Macron said the world needed a functioning United Nations.
L'Ukraine l'a dit souvent.
One could heap many criticism on our assembly, including some that are not entirely fair. This assembly is us. If it is ineffective, it's because some are blocking it, and often the most powerful. If it does not move fast enough, it is because we are not determined enough to push it forward. The United Nations is all of us.
Et tous ceux qui comprennent l'importance.
Iran and the European powers remained at loggerheads on Tuesday to strike a last-ditch deal to avert the reimposition of UN sanctions before a September 27th deadline, but both sides left the door open for further talks. The foreign ministers of France, Britain and Germany, the so-called E3, along with EU's foreign policy chief Kaja Kallas, held talks with their Iranian counterpart on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. On August 28th, the E3 launched a 30-day process to reimpose UN sanctions, which ends on September 27th, accusing Tehran of failing to abide by a 2015 deal with world powers aimed at preventing it from developing a nuclear weapon. But the three European diplomats said significant gaps remained, even though all sides knew what needed to be done to get a compromise. If Tehran and the E3 fail to reach a deal on an extension by the end of September 27th, then all UN sanctions, including on its key hydrocarbon sector, will be renewed on Iran, where the economy already struggles with crippling sanctions reimposed since 2018 after US President Donald Trump ditched the pact during his first term. Meanwhile, a team of inspectors were on their way to Iran should Tehran and European powers reach a deal this week to avert the reimposition of international sanctions. UN nuclear watchdog chief Rafael Grossi agreed that technical measures with Iran in Cairo earlier this month would pave the way for the resumption of IAEA inspectors at sites. But with scant detail and no time frame, they've come under fire given the urgency ahead of the snapback.
Everything is possible. Everything is, if there is a will, sorry for the cliche, if there is a will, there is a way. We have our inspectors, their inspectors are on the way, and they are, the possibility to start with this work is depending on the political will of Iran.
Protesters, meanwhile, opposing the Iranian government, gathered near the United Nations in New York on Tuesday, a day before Iran's president, Masoud Pezeshkian, was set to address the annual UN General Assembly. The Organization of Iranian American Communities, affiliated with the People's Mujahideen Organization of Iran, organized the rally. It is the main faction within the exiled opposition umbrella organization, the National Council of Resistance of Iran. There was a heavy security presence outside the United Nations headquarters. The US Secret Service said on Tuesday it had dismantled a network of sophisticated electronic devices in New York area that had been used to threaten US government officials as foreign leaders gathered this week for the UN General Assembly's 80th session. Further, French President Emmanuel Macron will meet his Iranian counterpart Masoud Pezeshkian at the UN on Wednesday as efforts to avert the reimposition of deep sanctions on Tehran over its nuclear program intensify. Giving options from the podium of the UN General Assembly, the French president said, Iran either makes a gesture and goes back to the path of peace and accountability that make it possible to get back on course, or sanctions will have to be imposed. He further said he will meet the Iranian president on Wednesday on each of these crucial issues. In another meeting, world leaders convened at the UNSC to address the deepening Israel-Palestinian conflict with stark warnings about humanitarian crises and regional instability dominating discussions. The meeting concluded with calls for renewed international efforts to address the escalating crisis, as world leaders departed amid lingering questions about the Council's ability to act decisively. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres described the situation as one of the darkest chapters in the conflict. US Ambassador to the UN Mike Waltz criticized recent unilateral statements regarding Palestinian statehood. He argued that such moves embolden Hamas and undermine the peace efforts.
Unfortunately, yesterday's conference spoke to domestic audiences, but it will prolong this tragic war in Gaza, and it will prolong the suffering. Hamas stands emboldened today after that conference. We've rewarded its obstruction. We've undermined efforts to achieve peace in both the short and the long term. Unilateral recognition statements do not alter the reality on the ground. It does not alter the fact that there is not a Palestinian state to recognize. And at this point, there is no credible Palestinian partner for peace.
Next, news of tariff reduction talks with the US. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney acknowledged that trade discussions between the US and Canada are still ongoing. Speaking at a press conference after attending the United Nations General Assembly, Carney said, while Canada currently had the best trade deal with the US of any country due to the USMCA compliant goods being exempt from US tariffs, it could be better. On China, Carney said Canada has alignment with the US on steel tariffs, and China saying he hopes to have talks with President Xi Jinping.
We have the best trade deal of any country in the world. Right now with the United States, we have 85% plus of our trade is free. We have the lowest tariff of any country in the world. That deal can be better. Both the President, President Trump, and I agree on that. We have a number of discussions, our officials have a number of discussions on how that can be potentially structured. A lot of that will roll into this process of the review of what we call CUSMA, which is our agreement, you know this, but for everybody, agreement with the United States and Mexico. That review will start over the course of later this year. I mean, the individual country reviews, but the discussions will start later this year and into next year.
South African President Cyril Ramaphosa said on Tuesday that he is in talks with a US trade representative to reduce tariffs levied by President Donald Trump. Ramaphosa also said that the African Growth Opportunity Act treaty should continue.
And also the tariffs that President Trump is seeking to levy on us and has already started to be reduced. And that AGOA treaty should continue. And we are now involved in negotiations with the United States Trade Representative to see the extent to which we can reduce that.
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro on Tuesday warned that the US military presence in the Caribbean poses a significant threat to regional stability. Maduro, in a televised address, accused Washington of preparing for military confrontation. Maduro viewed the US military actions as a threat to Venezuelan sovereignty and a pretext for potential regime change.
Esta narrativa falsa.
This false narrative seeks to impose a state of violence in Caribbean and South America and threatens to escalate into catastrophic war in all of our continent. An attack on Venezuela would be beginning of catastrophic war in the Caribbean and South America.
Y amenaza con escalar hacia una guerra catastrófica.
The US has dispatched 8 warships and a submarine to the southern Caribbean, and the biggest US deployment in years has raised fears in Venezuela of military confrontation. Maduro has accused Trump of trying to effect regime change. On to the US now. Jimmy Kimmel returned to his late-night talk show on Tuesday, less than a week after Disney's ABC suspended production over his controversial remarks about the killing of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. The company reversed course less than a week later, restoring Jimmy Kimmel Live to the lineup on September 23rd. During his return, Kimmel clarified that he did not intend to make light of Kirk's death and also criticized the assassination. Kimmel talked about the freedom of speech America provides and admitted taking it for granted until efforts were made to silence him and others, calling those attempts un-American and dangerous. His return received mixed reactions from the public, some praising his honesty and courage, while Kirk's supporters criticizing the return of the show. Also, media giants including Nexstar and Sinclair continue to boycott the show, limiting the show's broadcast in key markets. And on to weather updates now. Super Typhoon Ragasa has made landfall on China's southern coast, tearing through Guangdong province. Viewers can see the impact. Trees snapped, roadblocks overturned, and streets flooded in cities like Taishan and Shenzhen. In Yangjiang, visuals show a deserted airport and waterlogged roads. China's Marine Authority has issued its highest red wave warning, with storm surges expected up to 2.8 meters. Earlier, Typhoon Ragasa battered the special administrative region of Hong Kong. Public transport was toppled and fierce winds uprooted trees. The Hong Kong Observatory raised its highest typhoon alert overnight, with gusts crossing 220 kilometers per hour. Heavy downpours stretched across the southern coast. Taiwan is already facing the storm's fury. Mud and flood is all one could see in the Guangfu township of Taiwan. Buildings damaged, cars wrecked, and people walking down the drenched streets. At least 14 lives have been lost and hundreds are missing in the torrential rains. So as climate change and global warming are on the rise, the whole of the world is feeling the impact of high temperatures and unexpected weather changes. Asia is expected to witness increased frequency of tropical storms and typhoons, says Johnny Chan, an atmospheric scientist at the Asia-Pacific Typhoon Collaborative Research Center. The expert was talking with regard to the Super Typhoon Ragasa that lashed Hong Kong with hurricane-force winds and torrential rain on Wednesday.
Because of global warming, you will have more moisture in the atmosphere, and water temperature is also high, and therefore you would expect to have once the storm develops, it has more energy, and so you can expect the storm to become even more intense in the future. So you should expect to have more super typhoons, not only to hit the South China coast, but maybe even other parts of Asia.
And next we take a look at other stories making news around the world. The World Health Organization said that there is no scientific proof that taking paracetamol during pregnancy causes autism. This comes after US President Donald Trump suggested a link between autism, childhood vaccines, and Tylenol use by women in pregnancy. Panama's metro showcased construction of Line 3 on Tuesday, a project touted as historic as it will cross the Panama Canal. Panama remains the only Central American country with a metro system. Turkmenistan celebrated its 34th Independence Day with a festive concert at Muqam Palace in Ashgabat. Top artists and folklore groups performed songs of unity, while an art exhibition highlighted the nation's achievements. The evening concluded with the traditional Kusht Depre dance. You're watching DD India News. Are still to come on the show. Sri Lanka hosts the International Maritime Conference, the 12th Galle Dialogue 2025. India-Morocco defence ties deepen with the new Tata Advanced Systems Limited's defence manufacturing facility in Bereshid. And after 6 decades in the skies, the Indian Air Force readies to retire its iconic MiG-21 fighter jets. watching DD India News Hour. I am Tanvi Taneja. A reminder of the headlines we are tracking at this hour. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar calls for stronger Global South solidarity and collective push for UN reforms at the high-level meet of developing nations in New York. India tears into Pakistan at the UNHRC, calls it a nation which bombs its own people, asks Islamabad to vacate illegally occupied Indian territory and focus on its ailing economy. In a U-turn, President Trump signals Ukraine can retake all its land under Russian occupancy. Ukraine's President Zelensky and French President Macron welcome US President's remarks. And Super Typhoon Ragasa leaves a trail of destruction in Taiwan with 14 dead and hundreds missing. China orders shutting down of schools and businesses across 10 cities likely to be hit by the year's strongest storm. Next, news from Sri Lanka. International Maritime Conference, the 12th Galle Dialogue 2025, hosted by the Sri Lankan Navy, is underway. The theme for the conference is Maritime Outlook of the Indian Ocean under Changing Dynamics. The conference covers areas such as marine environment, maritime governance, economic sustainability, and fostering a clean Indian Ocean. The high-level event aims to bring together naval leaders, policymakers, and maritime experts to enhance regional cooperation and maritime security across nations. Speaking at the 12th Galle Dialogue, the Sri Lankan Prime Minister, Dr. Harini Amarasudaya, called for collective action in dealing with traditional and non-traditional threats in the Indian Ocean region.
For centuries, the Indian Ocean has been a nexus of civilizations, enabling trade, cultural exchange, and technological progress. Today, it is a stage where strategic interests converge, making it both a theater of competition and a platform for cooperation. Climate change, sea level rise, overfishing, and pollution threaten the biodiversity, human security, and economic stability. However, these challenges cannot be addressed by Sri Lanka alone. Ensuring effective maritime security and counter-narcotics operations in the Indian Ocean requires the active support and collaboration of other nations.
Indian Navy Chief Admiral Dinesh Tripathi advocated for harnessing technology for truly inclusive maritime domain awareness. He called for interoperable communication and information sharing networks and mentioned success of India's own Nishar Mitra software. He also emphasized on building resilient frameworks and having collective defense against threats.
India's maritime vision has been, is and will always be grounded on collaboration and cooperation in keeping with our civilization ethos of Vasudev Kutumbakam, where we feel that the world is but one family. There are many initiatives which have been taken by the government of India. If you remember 2015, our Honorable Prime Minister enunciated the vision of Sagars, which means seas in Hindi, security and growth for all in the region. And 10 years later, he has enhanced this to Mahasagar, which means oceans in Hindi. And those are the guiding principles under which all the maritime agencies and entire government actually is working.
India-Morocco defence ties have deepened with new Tata Advanced Systems Limited defence manufacturing facility in Barshid. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, who concluded his Morocco visit, jointly inaugurated on Tuesday Tata Advanced Systems Limited's defence manufacturing facility with his Moroccan counterpart Abdel Latif Laude. The plant will produce the indigenously developed wheeled armoured platform for the Royal Moroccan Army, with delivery starting next month. Marking the first Indian private defence facility in Africa, the project highlights India's Make for the World vision under Atmanirbhar Bharat. It is expected to boost local employment defence capabilities and strategic ties between India and Morocco, while serving as a future export hub to Africa and Europe. So from bold military operations against terror to sweeping reforms in defence production. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's leadership has seen India assert itself with strength and confidence.
In 2025, India crossed the line of control to strike terror camps in several locations in POK in Pakistan, avenging the Pahalgam terror attack. It was a clear message to the enemy. Terrorism would be met with force. This was the second time the Indian Armed Forces entered the POK to strike terrorists and their handlers, the first being the Balakot airstrikes of 2019. During Operation Sindoor, India not only dismantled terror infrastructure inside Pakistan, but also thwarted every attempt to target Indian soil. Both operations signaled New Delhi's new resolve under Prime Minister's leadership.
सिर्फ 20-25 मिनट के भीतर सीमा पार लक्ष्यों को भेदना, बिल्कुल पिन पॉइंटेड टारगेट्स को हिट करना, ये सिर्फ एक मॉडर्न टेक्नोलॉजी से लैस प्रोफेशनल फोर्स ही कर सकती है.
Beyond the battlefield, Modi's connect with armed forces is deeply personal. He has made it a tradition to celebrate Diwali with soldiers on their front lines, calling them his family.
मेरे लिए तो वर्षों वर्ष से मेरा परिवार आप ही सब है. मेरी दीपावली की मिठास आपके बीच बढ़ जाती.
Symbolism has gone hand in hand with substance. In 2022, India commissioned INS Vikrant, the first indigenously built aircraft carrier. The new naval ensign unveiled that day reflected a confident, self-reliant India.
विक्रांत केवल एक युद्धपोत नहीं है, ये 21वीं सदी के भारत के परिश्रम, प्रतिभा, प्रभाव और प्रतिबद्धता का प्रमाण है.
Modernization has accelerated indigenous fighter jets like LCA Tejas, artillery systems and missile projects are strengthening the arsenal of Indian Armed Forces. India's defense production hit a record 1.5 lakh crore rupees in fiscal year 2025, over 3 times than that of 2014. Defense exports have also crossed 24,000 crore mark in fiscal year 2025. India has also acquired some of the most cutting-edge weapon systems to secure its defenses. Rafale jets, 36 multi-role fighters with Meteor and Scalp missiles, S-400 Triumph, world's most advanced air defense shield, Apache AH-64E, lethal attack helicopters with Hellfire missiles, Chinook, heavy lift helicopters for high altitude operations, M777 ultralight howitzers, game changers in mountain warfare. The creation of Chief of Defence Staff has also improved jointness, while reforms have cut red tape and sped up acquisitions. On the welfare side, the implementation of one rank, one pension fulfilled a decade-old demand of veterans. For serving troops, better housing, improved border infrastructure, and Prime Minister's frequent frontline visits have boosted morale. From Balakot to Operation Sindoor, from INS Vikrant to record defence exports, the decade under Prime Minister Modi has been marked by decisive action, modernization and self-reliance. In New Delhi, Akshay Dongre for DD India.
भारत माता की.
After 6 decades in the skies, the Indian Air Force is set to retire the last 2 squadrons of its iconic MiG-21 fighter jets with a ceremonial farewell scheduled for September 26th at Chandigarh. For decades, this aircraft was the backbone of India's aerial defence, serving in key conflicts from 1971 to the Balakot operations. An Indian Air Force tribute describes the aircraft as not just a fighter jet, but a symbol of resilience, highlighting the deep connection between the machine and the personnel who flew and maintained it. The farewell marks an emotional moment as the jet flies into the sunset, but the aircraft will not be sent to the scrapyard. As its engines fall silent, the MiG-21's legacy will be etched forever in the history of the Indian Air Force.
the sentinel of our skies. For 60 years, it has guarded the nation, training our warriors, testing their courage, and triumphing in battle. A machine of steel, flown with unmatched spirit. The Chief of the Air Staff, joined by Squadron Leader Priya, honors this legacy with a commemorative sortie. Swift, fearless, enduring. Every mission, every landing. A chapter of courage written into history. A legend bows out, saluted by generations. The MiG-21 departs, but its legacy will always remain.
On to the US now. Addressing the US-India Strategic Partnership Forum, Union Minister Piyush Goyal on Wednesday said that India's advancements and initiatives in energy security and healthcare highlight the 7-year success of the free healthcare program, benefiting 612 million people.
We launched Ayushman Bharat 7 years ago on this day. I think that was a very important program because it brought to the fore a need to ensure quality healthcare for every citizen of India. It was expanded in earlier this year, towards the end of the last year, in 2024, it was expanded to cover everybody above the age of 70 years. So now we have about 620 million beneficiaries of free healthcare in India.
Minister of State for Skill Development and Entrepreneurship Jayant Chaudhary visited Massachusetts Institute of Technology, where he met with senior faculty members working on AI and related domains. Jayant Chaudhary also had an engaging interaction with select researchers and entrepreneurs from various fields. The discussions focused on the role of AI in shaping the future workforce and potential areas of academic and technological cooperation. Jayant Chaudhary also met a delegation led by the president of Boston University, Melissa Gilliam, in Boston for a wide-ranging discussion on avenues for collaboration between the Boston University and India in the fields of education, vocational training and skilling domains. President Draupadi Murmu on Wednesday honoured 20 artists with the Lalit Kala Academy National Awards. The award ceremony marked the culmination of the 64th National Exhibition of Art at the Academy, featuring 283 artworks from across the country in disciplines ranging from painting, sculpture, photography and installation. The President said that art is not only a medium of aesthetic appreciation, but also a powerful tool for enriching cultural heritage and fostering a more sensitive society.
इस प्रदर्शनी में प्रदर्शित विविध माध्यमों जैसे कि चित्रकला, मूर्तिकला, ग्राफिक कला, सिरेमिक और फोटोग्राफी से ये स्पष्ट है कि भारतीय कला लगातार विकसित हो रही है और नए आयाम प्रस्तुत कर रहे हैं। भारत की आर्थिक शक्ति के साथ साथ सांस्कृतिक शक्ति के रूप में भी पहचान मजबूत हो, इसके लिए हम सबको मिलकर कार्य करना होगा। मैं सभी कलाकारों को बधाई देती हूँ। जिन कलाकारों की कृतियाँ यहाँ प्रदर्शित नहीं हो सके, उन कलाकारों को भी मैं सराहना करती हूँ।
Busan in South Korea witnessed a unique and significant initiative at its University of Foreign Studies. The university has established the India Center, a hub dedicated to promoting the culture, civilization and languages of India to the world. Director of the India Center, Professor Lee Sun-cheol, explained how this center is deepening bonds of knowledge, tradition and cultural connect between India and the Republic of Korea.
We are at the Busan University of Foreign Studies, and right now I'm at their India Center. Professor Lee, please join us. Welcome to DD India. Tell us how did this concept of India Center came into picture?
We have the showcase for the India cultural to make the cooperation between the two countries. The embassy of the India Seoul requests us to set up this showcase, and there is another office to make the cooperation. Actually, we are trying to spread the India culture to the Korean peoples, especially southern area of the peninsula.
Okay, so there are a lot of things that have been displayed here. There's Indian textile, you can see sari, we have Indian instruments, the classical music instruments have been displayed there. You can see the masala, the Indian spices are so popular, they're also displayed. And what makes this India Center very special, the kind of a history, India's history has been displayed here through all these pictures. You can see our culture. Professor Lee, tell us more about the culture and all these artifacts which have been displayed here. It was a great task to bring everything, all of this together.
Yes, actually all things displayed is provided by the Embassy of India. So also they designed this showroom to spread the India culture to the citizens, also visitors. So everything is showing us what India is.
Definitely, it's beautiful, beautiful out here. You can see all the Indian monuments here, the incredible India, the feel of incredible India. You really feel that you are in India, in the heart of India, right here in Busan, because culture unites all, and Indian culture, Indian cuisine is really uniting different countries, different cultures. With camera person N.S. Shivakumar, this is Jaya Sinha reporting from Busan.
OTT platforms are the new medium of entertainment. They provide content to almost every age group. One such revolutionary OTT platform is Prasar Bharati's Waves. Waves as an OTT platform offers free of cost infotainment to millions of viewers across the country. Filmmaker Karan Johar, who bagged the National Award for his film Rocky Aur Rani Ki Prem Kahani, hailed Prasar Bharati's OTT platform Waves and the amazing content it provides to its consumers at the 71st National Film Awards.
Keep it simple. What does it feel like today?
It feels magical, it feels emotional, it feels surreal, it feels all the above. Winning this award after 27 years in this category, I won it for my first film, Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, 27 years later to win it again. It means that there's been a consistency and a continued relevance, and I'm very grateful to audiences worldwide for aiding me and assisting my vision. Also the fact that Shah Rukh and Rani are here, winning awards as well, it means the world to me. I think more power to Waves, more power to the fact that it's amazing content that is freely available for the consumer to watch. I think we're running short of like some prolific platforms to add to the beautiful mix of, you know, Jio Hotstar, Netflix, Amazon, Z5. I think more the merrier. So I'm glad we have Waves to create some beautiful waves in the wave of entertainment.
Some business news now. India's Employees Provident Fund organizations added 2.1 million jobs recorded in July this year. Prime Minister's office on social media platform X taking cognizance of the provisional payroll data released by the Ministry of Labour and Employment. Year on year, this is an increase of 5.5% compared to July last year, when net formal jobs created under the organization stood at 1.99 million. The historic Pradhan Mantri Viksit Bharat Rozgar Yojana is an initiative by the Indian government to support employment generation in the country, simultaneously benefiting both the employers and first-timer employees. The scheme incentivizes employers for creating more jobs, with manufacturing sector employers eligible for 4 years of incentive and all other sectors for 2 years. The Office of the Controller and Auditor General of India entered into an MOU with the Central Board of Direct Taxes (CBDT) on Tuesday. Both the organizations will collaborate to promote academic, training and research interaction in capacity development and research activities in areas of mutual interest. The CAG emphasized that the signing of the MOU will significantly enhance professional cooperation and capacity building efforts particularly in data-driven technology between the two departments. This MOU will serve as a strategic framework to bridge the skills gap between the two institutions and foster mutual growth. The Monetary Policy Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka has decided to keep the overnight policy rate unchanged at 7.75%. The decision comes after reviewing domestic and global economic conditions. The board noted that the current policy stance is consistent with its objective of guiding inflation towards the 5% target. The bank said headline inflation measured by the Colombo Consumer Price Index returned to positive territory in August 2025 after 11 months of deflation. The central bank added that the medium-term inflation expectations remain anchored, reflecting confidence in policy direction. Next, some sporting action now. The International Cricket Council, ICC, has suspended USA cricket with immediate effect on Tuesday. The global cricket body said that US cricket were subjected to breach of obligations as an ICC member under the ICC's constitution. The decision taken by the ICC board during its meeting earlier was based on USA cricketers' repeated and continued breaches of its obligations as an ICC member under the constitution of the global body. The management and administration of the teams will temporarily be overseen by the ICC and its designated representatives to ensure continued support for the players and maintain momentum towards inclusion in the Olympics. India will look to edge closer to the Asia Cup final when they take on Bangladesh in the Super Fours stage clash today. While the odds clearly favour India, Bangladesh has the potential to flip the script and breathe fresh life into their Asia Cup campaign. DD India's Mukesh Shukla has more from Dubai.
A crucial step forward, the Asia Cup final awaits as India faced Bangladesh in the Super 4 at the Dubai International Cricket Stadium on Wednesday. Both teams opened this stage with wins, Bangladesh adding past Sri Lanka and India cruising past Pakistan. On paper, India hold a strong edge with 16 victories in 17 T20 international clashes against Bangladesh. Yet the memories of Bangladesh occasions, big match upsets keep the contest wide open. For India, Captain Suryakumar Yadav insists performance today matter more than the past records. His sides will to stay sharp and avoid slip-ups. Bangladesh will bank on left-arm pacer Mustafizur Rahman to deliver with the ball to disturb India's formidable batting lineup. The stakes are high and the questions remain. So will India continue its dominance or can Bangladesh script another surprise? With cameraman SP Dubey, Mukesh Shukla, DD India, Dubai.
India's Krish Sharma struck gold in the junior category at the Speed Skating World Championships in Beijing. In an exclusive conversation with DD India's Narayan Singh, Krish admitted that the competition was intense, but his self-belief made the difference.
In the past decade, Indian sports has gone upwards. If you take a look, we have won medals not only in the sports where we were strong, but in the sports where we were just participating for the sake of participation. And recently, India won 5 medals in the World Championship in skating, 3 gold medals and 2 bronze medals. And right now, I'm joined by the champion in the junior category in the World Championship in speed skating, Krish Sharma. Krish, a very warm welcome. You won the gold medal at the World Championship, a big achievement. So how was the competition there at the World Championship, because all the top-notch players were there?
The competition was really tough and all the world-class athletes were there. But I knew I had some potential and I can win a medal for a country. And I know that how much hard work I put in my sessions. So I believe in myself and I achieve a gold medal for my country.
How you did your practice before going to the World Championships? Put some light on it.
Before World Championship, me and my coach planned everything and discussed about what work I have to put. And we planned everything. We did some session in Delhi and some training session in Mohali. And we put so much of hard work in training. And for me, it was really hard, but I did it. And we believe that we would achieve something in this championship. and we achieve a gold medal.
Because you are an international athlete, it's difficult for you to balance your studies. So tell something about how you make a balance in your studies and your sports, and also what kind of support you are getting from your family.
Yeah, I just passed class 12th. For about studies, my school was very supportive and they support me a lot in studies, in everything. And my family, all they did very supportive to me, and because of them I achieved this medal. My next target is to achieve this again and become a world champion in senior category, and to make my country proud and achieve more and more medals.
For India, definitely the future of the Indian sports, especially now the way medals are, we are getting medals in the sports like speed skating. It shows that India is not only a strong country in the sports where we were earlier doing good, but in the sports where we were not so good. We are participating for the sake of participation. Now we are winning medal in those disciplines also. With camera person Kumar Datta, Narayan Singh, DD India, Delhi.
And before we end, a heartwarming story from Thailand, where a newborn wild elephant calf was rescued after being found abandoned with a leg injury. The female calf has been diagnosed with a congenital leg abnormality. She's now receiving specialized care at a wildlife center, where vets have started a long-term treatment plan for her with both nutrition and therapy to help her walk again. That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live, and you can also download our DD India mobile app for quick news and updates on the go. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.